This is episode 19 of Triple Cross Cinema. I'm Whooper, and here's Mario.
Hello, everyone.
We're talking about Romanian new wave films today, three of them.
Mhm.
As you probably saw from the thumbnail, if you know your cinema, they are The Death of Mr. Lazarescu, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days,
Mhm.
and Police, Adjective, all of which
Mhm.
came out on odd-numbered films, or
Yep.
odd-numbered years, rather, in the 4-year span between 2005 and 2009.
Yep.
And I got to say, I'm not. How many new waves have we experienced now over the course
Jesus,
of
right.
this
I
podcast?
Yeah. Well, I must say that for every country, you will got a new wife. So, how many have you done so far? I'm pretty sure that we have done French new wave in the 1960s, German new wave in the 1970s, and maybe this one.
Is that it?
So at least three on top of my head.
Okay, I'd say that's good enough.
Yeah, all right. You just said you're not, so you're not into this new wave at all.
Oh no, I mean I thought these films were pretty good.
All right, right, yep,
But I just every single country having a new wave. Like what?
yep.
Why
This
not name it something else? Why not call it something else?
I I agree with you on that. It's just very lazy to call something a new wave just because some movement of new directors from that country emerge.
I
It's just
guess
a
the
lazy
French New
term.
Wave was really popular,
Yep,
so
yep,
everyone else just decided, well, we'll do that too.
yep. Yeah, I think they have like maybe Indian New Wave, Chinese New Wave, all the thing. I'm pretty sure that they have like the Poland New Wave, Czech New Wave as well.
Well, today it's going to be Romania.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I would say these films are less stylized,
Mm-hmm,
perhaps, than what you might expect when you hear that term.
mm-hmm.
You hear that it's some sort of cinematic movement. Typically, you're thinking of somebody who's going to come along and rewrite all the rules of filmmaking in a particular region. But I don't know that these films did that. I think they probably looked outward for inspiration
Mm-hmm.
and just came away with the idea that naturalism is the way to go when you're making social commentary,
Yeah,
and
and
it's that seems to have been a winning formula for these movies.
yeah, I agree, and especially for the death of Mr. Lazarescu, which many consider as like one of the very first Romanian New Wave. It's more a reaction against the cinema guild. So it's like because they didn't have any fund for the from the the name in National Council of Cinematography. So usually they provide all the main funding for filmmaking in Romania, and this one uh, when he submit the screenplay, they just reject it outright. So I think
Yeah, no
it
kidding.
been so I think it be made on a very shoestring budget
Interesting.
and massively popular as well. So these three movies all screened in the Cannes Film Festivals, with the performance 3 weeks, 2 days even won the Palme d'Or.
Right. Yeah, that I did know.
Yeah. This one, the Death of Peter Lazarescu, which I assume that we're gonna talk about next. I think it's won the Uncertain Rigor in 2005.
I mean, I guess that audiences there are more likely to sit through a 2.5 hour
I agree. I agree with you on that.
film more than anybody anywhere else. But yeah, I mean, we'll start with this one. We can go chronologically. That's the way we typically like to do it. First one
Yep.
is Lazarescu,
Hmm.
um, and
It it's been described as a dark comedy.
yeah, when I go into these films, I do it basically blind. But
Yep.
afterwards, I do go to Wikipedia just because that's where I like to go to see the cast list.
Mhm.
I can't navigate IMDb. It's just
Yeah. It's just not friendly.
it's a mess. If I were a longtime user, I'm sure I would feel differently. But It's kind of a mess. So I go to Wikipedia, and when I'm on, while I'm there, I tend to scroll through the little sections on like critical reception and um, just anything relating to what happens after the film's release. And I did see that it was marketed as a black comedy in Romania. Like they really played that. I even saw a little picture of the poster for the film, the Romanian poster, and it's all the characters, like all the characters who have been horribly like abusing one another verbally throughout the entire movie, all like smiling and giving a thumbs up to the camera.
I don't get it. I saw that poster. I don't get it.
I mean, there are aspects of the film that are pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I agree, but
Especially in like the first hour or so when they're still in the apartment, because it's 54 minutes. We spend 54 minutes. Not all of that is in his apartment. Maybe 50 of it is in his apartment, but it's in the 54th minute of the movie he gets into the ambulance to go on the first ambulance trip to the first hospital.
yeah,
So that means 40%, roughly 40% of the film, a little bit less, is spent, in his apartment getting to know him and hearing, all the criticisms that he has for his sister and his brother-in-law who he owes money to, and all of the like bitching that what's his face,
the dog,
Sandu, the
right?
neighbor, that he's constantly complaining about his wife, and you see what happens when I let her talk, like,
Yep,
you
yep,
know,
yep,
just some good old-fashioned sexism.
yep.
And a lot of that portion of the film I think is pretty funny because the
Right.
characters are so comically miserable and like sniping at each other.
Yep.
But
That
the
that
further
that's
along you get, the
yep.
less humorous it becomes, at least for me.
All right. That's actually really fun. It's really amusing because I always thought even like this is my rewatch, and I always thought that the first section where he's in the in his house is a bit dragging for me. So I think I think if anyone having like the issues with the movie, it's like the first 50 minutes of the movie where uh, he waiting for some for the ambulance to come, and
Yeah.
it feel like it goes on a bit forever, but
You think so?
when yeah, yeah, that's what I feel. And it's when he get into the ambulance and go over like all the hospital that it really take fly to me. But I really enjoy on this conversation. It's just so real. It's just so you know I'm so funny as well.
It is funny, it you kind of want to smile. But even from the start, this guy
Mm,
is just, he's an alcoholic.
yep,
He owes money to his brother-in-law, and of course gets into an argument with him over the phone about it. He's obviously in pain, because every once in a while the actor who's playing Mr. Lazarescu, I don't know how to say this first name at all, but his last name is Fiscutenu. Uh,
yep,
he'll pause in the midst of whatever he's doing, whether it's like feeding his cat or talking on the phone or moving from one room to the next. He'll pause, and he won't even necessarily like put his hand to his stomach, but you can tell there's a little subtlety in his performance where you can tell that he's in pain.
yep.
So even from the start, this guy is like to be pitied, you know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
he's not a great. We learn over the course of the film he's not really a great guy either.
Yep,
For example, there is a moment when he's talking to the first doctor,
yep, yep, yep.
the doctor who asks him, among many other ways in which he like mocks him, he says, "Do you smoke?" Mr. Lazarescu says yes, and the doctor says, "Good, keep it up."
Hmm.
Like, just fucking die already is basically the message there.
Yep,
So you can stop clogging up our medical system.
yep, yep, yep.
And that in itself is also kind of funny. Like, it's
Uh,
really horrible. It would be horrible if it happened to you in real life, but when it happens to like a make believe person on a movie screen,
yep.
it's kind of humorous. Anyway, the point that I'm driving at here is one of the ways that we learn that Mr. Lazarescu, another aspect of his character that we learn about that kind of implies he's not a great human being, is when that doctor
Hmm.
says, drunks come in here, we patch them up, then we ship them home, and then they beat their wives and children.
Yep.
Lazarescu responds by saying, "I have never beaten my child."
Yep.
The omission there, kind of implying that he has beaten his wife.
Oh man, I didn't go that far, but
I mean,
well,
why
yeah,
why wouldn't he? He would say, "I've never beaten my family," or "I've never beaten my wife or child," or "I've never
yeah.
beaten anyone." He would say one of those instead of that very specific denial about beating his child.
Well, but I think he's likable enough as well. Just see the way that like he care about the cats for once, and yeah, he like when you put through all this situation, I think his behavior is still is still what you would expect it.
Yeah, it's what you'd expect. I mean, he lives a miserable life,
Yeah, well,
um,
and
and he's treated miserably by almost every character in this movie.
yeah, and
So
yeah, even like all these like so he went through I think 4 hospitals, and like it's really believable to be the way that that's the way the doctor would treat. I would say like because they are always uh over demand. It also happened where one of the bus accident happening as well, so they
right,
have like other priorities, and yeah, they just seem so busy all the time, and add to that factor is that they like they see people like Lazarescu almost every day, coming up with an injuries, and like demand for help.
yeah. Well, specifically, I think what irks a lot of the doctors who see him is that even though he has an ulcer or he had ulcer surgery performed on him, he
Mm.
still is a drunk.
Yep, smoke.
Um, yeah, and then the doctors also say, well, if there's a confrontation between them, the doctors might say, "Did I put the bottle in your hand? Like, was
Yep,
I the one that drank all this alcohol?" And you hear that sort of retort pretty often,
yep,
like in real life, if somebody is taking like an unsympathetic stance towards somebody, they'll say, "Oh, well, did I make that poor decision for them? No, it's their own fault." In fact, you
yep.
even hear it in another of these three films, Police Adjective. You hear the captain make similar remarks.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not having any sympathy for these kids who are smoking hash.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
So that a lot of the doctors talk that way, yeah. And I guess, yeah, you can infer, and I think the presence of the bus accident in this script, goes a long way in helping guide the audience's conclusion about why the doctors act the way they do. It's because they're always overloaded. Like,
Yep.
there's always something going wrong.
Yep.
There's always more bodies to be treated. There's always more drunks who
And
need to, get their glucose shots before they're,
yep.
and a band-aid slapped on them and then sent back home.
Yep.
So like something's broken here.
Yep. So I have to take away from watching all that. The first takeaway is that it's just the timing. So it's like it's not like the last hospital where they went to, which they allow Lazarescu to be operated. Is better than these three. It's more like it's past the rush hours that they just went through. If they come to that hospital at the same time where they have to treat the others patient from the bus accident, it's I think he would be sent away as well.
Yeah.
That's my first takeaway, and my second takeaway is that I think the heroes, or shall we say the heroine in the story is the nurse, Murad. She just I think she go she go beyond her job here,
I
to
I
have him
agree.
admitted.
I agree that she is the hero of the film,
Yep.
but I do I don't know. To me this movie kind of depicts everyone as like totally
Realistic as well.
human.
Yep. True.
Um so no one there really is no hero. I mean, she is if you had to
Hmm.
pick a character who you were going to trust your life to out of all of these characters, it would undoubtedly be her.
Yep. Yep.
Um but like there's a moment, I don't know if you remember this one, but like you said, he goes to four different hospitals. And
Mm.
on the ambulance ride from the third to the fourth hospital, there's a moment where she puts her fingers up against his neck, against
Yep.
Lazarescu's neck as he's
All right.
sleeping, to
Uh-huh.
see whether he has died, to see if
Yep.
his pulse is still there. And
Yep.
when, obviously he is still alive because the film ends with him still living.
Hmm.
So she must have felt his pulse, and you see her like roll her eyes in exasperation.
Yep.
Like she was hoping that he would be dead.
Uh,
So her nightmare of a night could finally end.
yep. Yep. Well,
So she's the most, morally upright character in this film, but even she wishes death on another human being just to get out of the tornado of horror that she's
yep.
found herself in. She didn't
Yep.
know when she answered the call to go to this old man, this old cat hoarder's apartment, that she was going to be exposed to all this abuse as a
Yep.
result.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
she probably regretted it by the end.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that is true. And oh man, how I just enjoy like all these little dialogue when they say to each other, and even the long text. I just think that it just hit the right amount of like being natural enough, and so that you don't feel that it's staged, and like it never drag. Like all the conversation I just enjoy it a lot, even when like Lazarescu, he just speak nonsense and the doctor just say like I don't really understand what he say.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh my.
think there's a temptation when watching this film, and I think this is probably the way that a lot of people interpret it as they watch it, to be like all the doctors, like the saying "all cops are bastards."
Mm.
Um, like after this film, you might be ADAB, all doctors are bastards. Um,
I know.
that like they
Yeah.
all want to play God, and they all think just because they have this medical degree that they think they're better than the nurses or their patients or society at large or whatever. Um, and many of the doctors do act, they're disinterested in their patients, or they are like holier than thou snobs who lord their authority over their the other medical staff who are supposed to be
Hmm.
working with them rather than under them.
Hmm.
I just completely lost my train of thought. What was I what was I driving towards? I
Yeah.
think it was that the doctors are, I don't know, they have it rough too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
think.
agree. So like for me like at the end of this film I don't really like come to hate any of these doctor, even even the one that would send him away, because like I could see that they very occupied, they have like a lot of patient coming up, and a lot of demands for them, and even like if they lash out uh to the nurse, I feel it a bit it a bit too harsh and unfair for the nurse, right? But like it happened exactly the way like in real life.
Right. Well, the background of the film, the director was a hypochondriac, and he was in and out of hospitals for years apparently.
Yep, yep, yep,
So a lot of his experience probably worked its way into the script, and he probably was exposed to his fair share of like narcissism from medical professionals.
yep, yep.
Um, but I mean, the guy wearing the green scrubs at that third hospital, who like really gets into a back and forth with
All right, yeah, yeah, yep,
Miota, the nurse.
yep.
He sucks. Let's be real.
Well,
um, but I mean, he's just part of the same system that I think is causing all
Hmm.
the other medical professionals that we see over the course of the entire film to probably be like underfunded,
Yep.
overworked.
Yep.
And the film really doesn't. That's not its main goal. I don't think is to offer a
Criticize.
criticism of the
Yep.
Romanian, like,
Hospital system.
yeah, I don't, certainly that angle exists within the film.
Hmm.
But really I kind of view it as like a case study in,
Hmm.
I don't
I
know, maybe
agree.
like the way that we like avert our eyes from like the elderly or people who are suffering or people who are on the brink of death.
Yep.
Um, like that that doctor in the green scrubs, the really arrogant one who it's so easy to hate. He's like, his primary concern at the beginning of that scene, where we're introduced to him, is he needs to find a phone charger or a battery so he can call his wife and like wake her up because she's on the train with their child and
Yep.
she's asleep. The doctor's like concerned that they're going to miss their stop because she's
Yep.
sleeping.
Hmm.
That's probably what he cares more about than even the argument that he gets into
Hmm.
with the nurse.
Yep.
That's just his ego coming out, But I'm
Yep.
sure that as soon as they got out of there, he was like, okay, well, let me try calling my wife again.
Yep. 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 True.
And Lazarescu, he's so low on the priority list. He just doesn't matter to
Yep.
95% of the people that he comes into contact with.
Yep. 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 That is true. And even to the very first doctor, when like when Lazarescu have a he didn't want to be treated by that doctor anymore, and the doctor just say you out. Uh, Afterwards, though, he's still like performing his duty by like by saying to the nurse that this guy probably needs a operation. I would love to have him if we wasn't to be so busy. I doubt it, but
Yeah, he's certainly
yeah,
lying.
yeah, but
But he does
he
recognize the need for like Lazarescu
eh,
to actually be looked at.
yeah. Or like even go to like the intensive care, or like emergency have a look at, because I think by that point it just they need to do the scan, the CT CAT scan,
Right.
yeah, on the technical terms.
Yeah, it's definitely a CT scan. I was wondering for a while, like after I had finished watching the film and I thought back on it, I was like, was that a CT scan or was that an MRI? But there is some dialogue about topography, which would be the T in CT.
Huh.
So it was a CT scan, and
All right.
that's
Yeah.
how they got all the images of the various parts of his body, including his
Yep.
brain, including his stomach, where he's got a cancerous
Yep.
lesion in
Yep.
his liver.
Hmm. Hmm.
So he's gonna die. Like there are two things wrong with him. There's the blood clot in his brain,
Yep.
the subdural hematoma, which is what he's gonna get operated on. That's the operation that he's gonna receive at the end of the film. But he
Hmm.
will. The film's called The Death of Mr. Lazarescu. We don't actually
Yep.
see him die, but he
Yep.
will. He will
I
die because of the cancer. The
I
second thing
think
that's wrong with him.
that's right, but I think that's also the joke. Like on the title, we have the title of the death of Mr. Lazarescu, and the joke is that through the event of the films, we expect him to die, and he's not, but
Right.
eventually he is.
Yeah, and it's true that he we don't see his death. He will die eventually. So the promise of the title goes unfulfilled, at
Yep.
least based on what we witness. But
Mhm.
he does experience a sort of death over
He,
the course of the film. Like he is so thoroughly cast aside by everyone, even his
it
savior.
it
Wishes in the back of her mind for him to
Yep.
just expire.
Yep.
So he kind of dies, at least in the eyes of Romanian society at large. He's he's not even pitied by the end.
Yep.
He's just like
Well,
forgotten. They they're going to operate on him, but only because, and as you pointed out already, the only reason he received treatment and got the go ahead for surgery, because the doctor at that fourth hospital says, well, no one's going to ask for his permission now.
Yep. Yep.
Like it's over. No more. We're
Yep.
he's
He's
clearly unable to consent, so ship him off to be operated on. But like you said, if he had gone there earlier in the night, there's no way it would have played out like that. They would have been
That's right.
slammed. This only worked out for him, if you can call it working out, because it was the end of their shift
Yeah.
when they arrived.
It was the end of the shit, and he was unconscious, so
Right.
that he couldn't do anything, you know. And but it actually, you know, like an open for sure, but also a happy ending, because I apparently it is based on the true story of a man that the director heard of. I think that's in the news, that the man being sent away from Seoul hospital and was left on the street by the paramedics and died. So we doesn't, it inspired by that story, but we doesn't see this ending.
Right. Yeah,
So
I guess it's a happy ending in a sense, at least
it
compared to real life events.
yeah.
But
Oh
I
man.
mean, knowing that he's just doomed to die of cancer, regardless of the success or failure of this operation, is pretty depressing. And he's also, like there's an element of his performance, which is, I mean, I'll just say humiliating. At
Uh-huh.
the very end, he is naked and his head is shaved.
Yep. Well,
And that's, I mean,
that's how you get
I
treated.
actually
And
shaved
that's
my own head a couple weeks ago. So
all
no
right. Wow.
disrespect, because I'm bald. I was losing my hair
Yep.
rapidly, so I shaved my head.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
No disrespect to the bald men of the world, the bald people of the world. But in general, it's not considered to be a great look. And
Oh.
when you're old and fat, no one really wants to see you naked.
Uh,
So Fiskutenu, the actor whose first name I'm still not going to try to pronounce because I don't
yep.
have the balls.
Yep.
Uh, there is an element of like real courage to him reading the script, getting to the last page. Oh, by the way, you're going to be bald and naked at your age, and him being like, "Yeah, I'm down
All
for this.
right.
This is a story that needs to be told. I feel good about this script. I want to play this character, and I'm ready.
I
Let me
I
just."
just have to lie down there, right? And they're gonna do everything.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Well.
it's. I mean,
Uh.
so I don't like calling it a happy ending, especially when it ends that way. I mean, maybe
It.
all of this is coming from me just because I'm insecure about my newly shaven head. Maybe
Uh.
that's what the issue is. But it's
Uh.
also
Yep.
that's really tough um, for that actor, but also for that character. That's the
Well.
way the film ends for him. He's kind
Yeah.
of
Well.
he's
But
been stripped of his dignity, but now he's been stripped of his hair.
yeah. Well. But think about it. They do it because they gonna have a operation on him. So you know it is it the way it should be treated, and it actually not a bad way to be treated that way. You know. That's how I view it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the hair removal was necessary for the surgery, but I just the term "happy ending" is really not. I'm
Yeah.
not seeing it.
Yep. And I don't know if you have noticed the fact that the actor himself just passed away 2 years after these films.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that.
yeah, by the cancer that basically the same cancer as at Mr. Lazarescu.
Hmm.
Not really the same cancer, but he had a colon cancer, which at first the nurse diagnosed it as he have a colon cancer.
Right. Yeah, and that she was wrong about that. Like
Yes, he
she was
was wrong
completely
about that.
wrong about that. And that's part of what's interesting to me about this film. Like this is not just a straight up criticism of the Romanian medical system or of the treatment that she as a nurse receives from her superiors, from doctors, because she is wrong about his colon cancer. Like she's way off base about that.
Hmm.
And there's also, as we mentioned before, there's the presence of this bus crash
Yep.
in the script. So it's not as though they go to all these hospitals and just due to sheer arrogance and mismanagement and like complete human error, and it's he doesn't just get sent from one hospital to another for no reason other than people are bullies and incompetent.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
it's everything is going sideways tonight, and he's just caught up in the middle of it.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. Yep.
so it's yeah, I don't feel good about any of the treatment that he or the nurse or anyone else received at the hands of the doctors. Um, but at the same time, I really like I at the end, having sat through the whole 2 hour and a half, 150-minute movie.
Hmm.
What I came away thinking and feeling was not, um, man, doctors really suck, or
Yep.
doctors from this particular country or region or whatever really suck. It
Yep.
was this, this this man deserved better, and he couldn't get it,
Yep.
um, because nobody cared. And
And
it's hard to care though. Like, you could even say it's impossible.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's impossible to care enough so that like every patient who comes in through the doors of your facility gets the sort of
Proper treatment.
attention
Yeah.
and love that they should receive. You can't operate that way. You can't
That's
operate
right.
a hospital that way. You can't operate a business that way. You can have that ideal,
Hmm.
like in the back of your mind or as your like corporate slogan, or it can be your guiding philosophy as but it's not. You can't operate that way. You can't live your life that way. Nobody can.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think
And
this film is even like pointing out that in itself is a tragedy. That not everyone can receive the attention that they deserve,
yep.
the love that they ought to experience as a human being. Because there's just not enough to go around.
Yep. And I think lastly, I just like to comment on the technical aspect because it's like you said, it's not very it's not showy at all. They just like basically have a handheld camera and they just like follow the scene and everything just been shot in a natural light and natural style. But like the amount of long takes and how long that long take is, it just sometimes it's just amazing to me because I think we see more in these other two films that like they have the character have to say and function and like in like 10 uh 12 minutes unbroken take
Yeah,
and how
but
how how they stay on the characters and how they like communicate with like the dialogue and like all the amount of information in there, it's just amazing to me.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would hope that a lot of the people who were involved in the making of these films understood what was like important or special about them, what was different about them. Hopefully, that
Mhm.
inspired them to, stay in the moment, stay in character, or if they're working behind the camera,
Mhm.
to like holding a boom mic, for example, to just like give it a little, like a 2% boost, um, just because of what's being captured and how critical it is and how like innovative, at least for Romania,
Yeah.
um, this sort of material was, like for the
Oh
actors
my.
too. Hopefully they were had a little extra incentive to memorize their lines or to stay in the moment when the camera was trained on them for like 10+ minutes.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Oh,
invisible too.
it
Like when
is,
you
it
when you
is
watch the film, you're not thinking about that at all. Not unless you're like consciously
true.
looking for it going into it. The
Yep. Yep.
it kind of does feel like a play in
Yeah.
some respects.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, it just the way that it really focus on the action and it far away enough that like you see it not in like an objective, not subjective way. Like I'm just I really enjoy this movie, and like watching this again, I still really like it. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
it's just a long night into days, and it's just like one of the healthiest day that ever happened to Lazarescu and
yeah.
maybe the nurse, or maybe it's just every day for the nurse,
Well, I hope not.
and
I certainly hope
and,
not.
and for the doctors as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad day for everyone involved,
True.
not just for the title character. So even though the film, it has its comic elements, it has its tragic elements too, but it's not a tragedy specifically for um, anyone.
Hmm.
I think it really is almost a comedy of errors, or a comedy of um, I don't know, of coincidence.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
feels kind of chaotic, like
Yeah.
not the
Uh,
production of the film or any of the technical aspects, because obviously it's a very measured piece of work, but
mhm.
the like that the universe in which this film
Mhm.
exists is chaotic.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bus
Yeah.
crash, the string of doctors who are more interested in themselves than their patients, um, the I don't know, the string of events that lead to Lazarescu even contracting these illnesses, which many of which happen off camera, and we only get little hints of based on his phone conversations before things start to go really sideways for him medically.
Mhm.
It's just a whole, just as with every other aspect of every person's life, it's a whole bunch of small little pivot points
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
culminate in whatever your present circumstance is. And for this guy, unfortunately, uh, they all stacked up in a really horrible way.
Well, he get treatment at the end.
Yeah, you keep trying to spin this into like a positive thing.
It is a positive thing. At least like he got two big issues, and at least one of them sorted out, or hopefully sorted out.
I don't know. I feel like the lack of respect paid to him, the lack of attention and care, is a fate like sort of similar metaphorically to death.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
really don't feel great about his survival, because at what cost has it come?
Hmm.
He's had
Hmm.
to under think about like what he must have been feeling and like experiencing as he was trying to speak at the last couple of hospitals, and his
Yep.
speech was starting to slur,
Yep.
and
Yep.
doctors would like stare at him and listen for a little bit before deciding, I don't have time to listen to this guy. And I mean, it's true. They don't
Hmm.
really have time to listen to every person with slowed speech, inhibited speech as a result of whatever medical condition they might have.
Hmm.
They have some shit to do. Like,
Yep.
but it's just
Yep.
so much of it, like him experiencing the brunt of all of that, like 3 hospital visits in a row, and only the fourth one, just by sheer coincidence, is able to push him through
Yep.
for surgery.
Yep.
Think all of that. Think about how that would feel. He may have wished that he were dead as that was
Hmm.
happening.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, a really good film to me. I really enjoy it, even though the running times when you first started it can be a bit pushing. It's like it over 2 hours, two and a half hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
Yeah, it is long, but I mean, I was interested the entire time. I thought, yeah, I also liked it a lot.
right.
I was really, it kind of stunned me by the time
Yep.
I got to the end. Yeah, I kind
Yeah.
of felt as though obviously this is not even close to true, but I kind of felt as though I had lived it along with the characters.
Yeah. Yep. 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 I think that's the effect that basically the Romanian new wave had to you, because
Right.
it feel like you experience the moment with them as well, with
Yeah.
the characters.
These films are all about how characters live and work,
Hmm.
not about how they like fight for the honor of a fantasy kingdom, or any, anything like that. It's really just about their lives,
Mhm.
and you're just in it.
Their miserable life,
Yeah, in many
because
cases.
we're gonna see the one of the most miserable situation that happened to the two girls in 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days.
Yes. Another film that stunned me.
Yeah, I agree. This one, I'm watching it the first time. I don't remember how long ago it was, and it stayed on my head for like it shook me for a few days. And even now, when rewatching it, it still had the same impact.
Yeah. Boy, there are. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. I'm
That's
waiting for your
true.
comment now.
I mean, yeah, impact. Boy, the obviously the shot of the fetus um on the
Yep. Yep.
hotel bathroom floor, major impact in that shot. The the shot of Gabita turning on the water in this very same bathroom,
Yep. Yep.
um, to drown out the sounds of her roommate having sex with uh, the abortionist.
See, see what rape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she
Well.
was. Um, that's
Yep.
all. That's a major moment of impact. Is just like she has to turn on the. Many times when you see in a film somebody turn on the water in a bathroom in order to make noise, it's a comedy film, and
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it because they're hiding in the bathroom due to some comedic situation, and they have to
Mm-hmm.
mask the sound of like they're changing clothes, or they're
Mm-hmm.
uh, they're doing something out of sight, so no
Yep.
other character can see them. They have to mask whatever noise they're making. In this
Yep.
film, it is like it couldn't be farther away from that
Mm-hmm.
premise.
Yep. Yep.
Because rather than the secret thing happening in the bathroom, it's happening outside the bathroom, and the person who's hiding in the bathroom is, what they're hiding from, the thing that deserves to be hidden.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to phrase this really.
I I just think that
It's
is
just not
weird.
funny. That's
Yeah,
that's the
that's right.
point.
But I just think that is a really superb direction that we see that off screen. We see that scenes where she like pull off the water tap instead of like having have to see like
The rape.
the drape. Yeah, that's right. So it happened off screen, but the hollowing effect that we have is, I think, strengthened. It's improved. It just feels so um miserable.
Yeah, yeah, that's true, and I'm sure I'm sure that good taste factored into the equation as well. Like you don't cut to the bathroom or keep the camera inside the bathroom only because it's the correct decision from a directorial perspective. Obviously, not wanting to depict a rape on screen is part of the reason
Mhm.
for that decision. But I think it was the correct one, absolutely. And even if you throw morality out of the equation, like the ethics of filmmaking, it's
Mhm.
still the right call to focus
Yep.
on Gabito because the movie spends a lot of time with Otilia,
Yep. Yep.
um, because she is the character. I mean, it makes sense that she is the primary character because she's the more mobile character. There's a
Yep.
portion of the story where Gabita just cannot move, so it makes sense that Otilia would be the one that we would follow for the majority of the runtime. But it's also important that we get inside Gabita's head a little bit,
Mhm.
because she's the person who all this is happening to and for. The Her pregnancy is the reason for the events of this film, so we do need to be with her some
Yep.
of the time, and that was you know
I think
that was a perfect opportunity, for us
yeah.
to be up close,
Yeah.
with her.
I think originally the screenplay had more screen time for Capita. But I think the decision that like just focus on her friend Ottilia and and how she go through, navigate the event. It actually a better decision.
Yeah.
And everything that could go wrong. It just to from at first when she booked the hotel, that there wasn't any booking, so she had to do with another hotel, to meeting that guy. And he even he talked a lot about, he have to show his identity and stuff. But when he done the job and leave, he actually left the passport, which I think indicate that it's a fake IDs.
I had the exact same thought. Yeah.
Man, this
Which
guy.
means that him talking about him being at risk
Yep.
because the front desk had his ID was
Yep.
just another means that he used in order to extort sex from them,
Yep. 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 I
which is
think so too.
pretty, that's horrible.
Yep.
Man.
Man,
He,
but
the man, what is his name? Vlad Ivankov? Yeah. Oh,
the
Vlad
the
Ivanov.
the actor. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He, this is not he also, appears in Police Adjective.
Yep.
But this movie, he has a special gift
Yep.
for playing, like irredeemable characters.
Well, it's actually funny because I think the first film that I watched from him as a lead is he's the main character. He's the main hero, so he's not uh and he actually played really well as well. So he it actually very funny. I think he versatile.
Hmm. Okay, well,
And
good. I'm glad for him. I mean, it's hard for me to say that I'm glad for him because he played a character who is so hateable. You know how
yep.
sometimes you watch a movie and a
Yep.
character gives like you're like, I hate that person, not
Yep.
that
Yep.
character. I hate that guy. You know, but
Yep.
I am. It's nice that he wasn't typecast
Yep.
as just like a complete scum sucking fuckhead. Uh, in the wake of this movie,
Yep.
because that's what I would do if I were a casting director. I'd be like, anytime you need somebody to play just a really disgusting role, you'd be like, get the guy from 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. Get him on the phone.
Oh man. But yeah, because like the whole scene that happened in the hotel room, I think it's a long take as well. So they have to, it it actually have to depend on the three characters to, go along with it. And I think they all did a fantastic job.
Yep.
Especially him, who
Yeah.
who do all the demand, and who like leading the two girls and us.
Yeah. Well, he does have the majority of the dialogue because that's his style. And that's his style in Police Adjective as well, is to bully the other characters, like with semantics, just by talking around them kind of in circles. Um,
Right. Yeah, we get into that later.
yeah. Well, he does it here too.
Yep.
Um, by like after he learns, for example, and this is kind of an interesting aspect of the film is that Gabita is something of a compulsive liar.
Yeah, that's right.
She lies about multiple things to Bebe, who is the
Yep.
abortionist.
Yep.
I would guess that he's like a former doctor.
Yeah.
Um, that
Yep.
I mean, I would hope that I would actually
I
hope that he's a former doctor, just so that
Yep.
Gabita got the best possible care that she could in that very specific, very fucked up circumstance. Like I would hope that he had some legit medical training and gone to school.
Yep.
Um, but she lies to him on the phone about multiple things. She omits a bunch of truths to Otilia when she's describing the meeting that she's going to have with Bebe.
Mhm.
My hypothesis is that she even lied about reserving the hotel room.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
then
I don't think we ever learned that for sure, but they have no record of the reservation. And of course, hotels can mess up.
yeah.
Um, but
But
she lies about all kinds of stuff all the time.
yeah,
So
but I think it's so right for her to like to like to Mr. Pepe and like whoever that is, because this is also a very harsh situation for her. Like she have to do the illegal abortion for one thing, and she the one to have to endure all that. But yes, if when she lied to her friend, or when she uphold the information to her friend, it just like it just so poor for Ottilia, who have to go through all this.
Yeah.
And obviously her friend Ottilia is upset about that, and they have like a pre-conversation in regard to that. But like throughout the movie, it's Ottilia who like really stick up to her friend, and basically doing all the work, all the dirty work.
Yeah.
Oh,
The when you first get a sense of who the two characters are at the very
yep,
beginning, you get the sense that Otilia is kind of the more capable,
yep,
um,
yep, for sure.
the more capable of the pair. Gabita is kind of even the character's appearances. Gabita has like her eyes are a little bit wider. She's a little bit
Yep,
thinner and more frail.
yep,
Like she has less presence
yep,
physically. You get the sense right away. So it was good casting as well that Otilia
mhm,
is going to be kind of the boss,
yep, yep,
so to
yep,
speak. But
yep,
that's yeah. I
and
mean, even though Gabita is so small, she's still in. As it becomes clearer that what Bebe expects is that both of the girls are going to have sex with him as a
yep,
condition of his performance of the abortion.
yep.
Um,
Did he
there's
take
a
the money
moment
as
where
well?
she throws herself in front of him to stop him from leaving and says like
Yep,
she's not my sister. She's under no
yep,
obligation to go along with this.
yep,
So that's a like a little miniature act of heroism on
yep,
Gabita's part, even though her doing that, that could be the trigger that makes him walk out even faster. Just like push her
mhm,
aside and be like, "Nope, I'm
yep,
out."
yep, yep.
Um, so recognizing that her one chance at getting this pregnancy aborted could walk out the door, she still tries to save Otilia from the fate that
Uh,
ends up befalling her anyway.
yeah, I understand that, but not enough. Like when yeah, when her friend agreed to do that, I think her first reaction is just to uh, walk out the hotel, having a break. So it just like yeah, I oh man,
Yeah, well,
it's hard for both of them.
yes, it's an impossible situation.
Yeah, and even add to that, she even forgot to bring the plastic sheet that
Right.
that was supposed to like the yes, that was supposed to she's supposed to bring, so she forgot that as well.
Yeah,
And
so she's absent-minded in addition to you know,
one
being a liar.
yeah, one thing that I wasn't sure that did he take the money as well
I
in it.
I don't think we ever see it happen, but I think we can assume that he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's there's
because
no way that a guy like this would not just take the money.
yeah, because it feel it odd for me that Gapita like at the end just like just go down to the hotel and like order something to eat, despite that like they broke. But
I don't know. Maybe she has some money stashed away
yeah,
somewhere. I
yeah,
don't know.
well,
The I thought that she was going to be dead at the end
yeah,
because of the knife that Otilia takes from Bebe's suitcase or his little trunk. She takes the knife
yeah,
and then has to like hide it because he's coming back into the room and she can't figure out how to retract the blade.
yep, 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 yep.
So with Otilia alone in the hotel room and the knife in there, not having been used yet,
Is
even though
that
it was written
Ottilia
into
or
the
is that
script.
Gapita?
Oh, it's Gabita. Maybe I
Yep,
misspoke.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought Gabita was gonna have killed herself when Otilia came back and was like knocking on the door and couldn't get an answer.
yeah. Well, I get a bit of that same sense when like when she didn't answer the door, or like if but all right, I think it's a again a happy ending where the two girls come, like come out of it, you know, healthy. Oh my God, it
What
just won't
about their
help, and
mental health, man?
it's not. And yeah, and it's even uh add to the fact that Ottilia had to attend his her boyfriend's mother's birthday, I think. Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and the mother is played by the same actress as the death of Peter Lazarescu.
yeah. Luminita Georgiou.
Yep.
I practiced pronouncing that, so don't mistake me for a native Romanian speaker. Not that you would have done that anyway. Yeah,
Oh, but
it was kind of nice to see her in a much happier role.
yep,
Although what that scene represents for Otilia is not a happy thing whatsoever.
yep,
It kind of represents a lack of understanding between generations.
yep,
Because this film is set in 1987, which is 2 years before the fall of communist Romania.
yep, yep, yep.
So they're still under communist rule at this point, and I think the some of the dialogue that's offered up during that dinner party is meant to represent the idea that some of the older generation adults who have grown up under this communist regime now, rather than wanting better for the next generation, they just expect that the new kids on the block, their sons and daughters, are just gonna go through the same thing. They're just going
Mhm.
to adapt the same way that they did. So rather than trying to go for reform,
Mhm.
they'll be happy with repetition.
Yep.
And I think the dinner party is in addition to it being like tonal whiplash, a complete contrast between the happiness and the contentment and the
Yep.
privilege of all the adults around that table.
Mhm.
There's obviously a major contrast between all that and what Otilio is going through, but it also, just in terms of what the film is speaking about in terms of like I keep saying in terms of the Romania specific criticism that the film is offering, I think has
Yep.
to do with the politically the what communism has done to the mindset of the people who grew up in it, how it's
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
blinded them to how things could be better.
Yep. 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 And apparently that take uh I think it took them like 5 days to finish the take of the dinner.
Really, was it all one shot?
Se- it's a one shot, and it took them 17 attempts over 5 days.
Wow.
And it's a really long scenes,
Yeah.
sorry, it's a really long. I think it's like a 10 minute. So
Yeah, that's it's very impressive. The
yeah,
film as a whole is very impressive, but yeah, a lot of the longer takes, people just staying, in the mind frame of their characters for that long, especially when there are so many people speaking. Like for example, the scenes in the hotel room where it's just Gabita, who doesn't really do a lot of talking,
yeah,
and Otilia and Bebe. There's three people, so there's let's say three chances for things to go wrong. Obviously,
mm,
there's more like tens of thousands, just because
yeah.
of all the little tiny
And
nuances.
yeah, and on the pep talk as well. So like it's easy to like mess up the pace.
Yep. So think about how many more opportunities there are for failure uh, in that dinner party scene.
Yep,
You said it took
yep,
17 attempts. I wouldn't be surprised if it were 70
yeah,
instead. But I guess they got the right people to play those parts,
yep,
and some of them were off camera too. There could have been dubbing involved
yep,
for the people
yep.
whose voices you can hear, but for
But
whose mouths you can't see.
yeah, but imagine that you have to eat this food for like 5 days between
Right.
takes on
Yeah.
intake. It's so
I've seen
intended.
interviews with actors who talk about that sort of thing. Like after 4 hours of eating or pretending to eat the same food over and
Yep.
over, they get like sick. It makes them actually sick to look at that kind of food afterwards.
Yeah.
It's really
Oh,
it's interesting.
Yeah. Oh man. And to the harrowing end where Ottilia had to is Ottilia had to dispose of the fetus, and her
Yeah,
friend Gagabitet request that to be buried.
right, right. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a really important detail, I think, is that what Otilia does is she ends up following the advice of Bebe,
Yep.
her rapist. She is
Well,
so damaged
she
by this.
still sorry, but he's still an expert of doing that. So
Yeah. Oh, I don't mean to say that him being a rapist disqualifies him medically or just in terms of like experience in this field.
yep.
But think about like when she takes the fetus and walks out of the hotel and
Mhm.
is considering what to do with it. Because there's that scene where she passes by the dumpster, which is even has like its little latch propped open.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And it would be so easy to just put the baby in there. Uh,
I
and then
think she
I'm sure
actually
she's tempted.
yep. But there's like a dog park.
Right. Yeah.
So,
She was probably going to do it, and the dog barking like startled her out of it, kind of
yep. Yep.
shook her into a different frame of mind. Um,
Yep.
but just it's it's possible that his advice you know was good.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't have any personal experience in this area,
Yep.
thankfully. Um, but think about like how painful that must have been for Otilia. Was
Hmm.
just going through the mental process of thinking what should I do here? Should I
Hmm.
respect my dear friends? Because they must have a very close friendship if Otilia was willing to go through all of this.
That's true.
Um, her very close friend wants her to bury the fetus. She decides against that. She could just put it in the dumpster. She decides against that. What she does instead is she follows the advice of a man who the man she hates most in the entire world.
Hmm.
Um, that's how like sick she is of the situation that she's been put into.
Hmm.
Is like because let's say quote unquote ordinarily, if somebody who you hate gives you a piece of advice, you'll be like, no, I'm not doing that.
Hmm.
I hate that guy. There's
Hmm.
no way I'm going to do that. But she just wants to like be done with this. She wants the fetus being the evidence, kind of the end product of this entire process that she's gotten sucked into and has cost her so much, just in terms like spiritually.
Hmm.
Um, the fact that she ends up putting it down the trash chute the way he recommends is horrible. It's horrible
Hmm.
for her. It's a horrible image by itself, but it's horrible for her too that she has to come to grips with the fact that she's going to follow his advice.
Yep. Yep. Oh damn.
And the fetus itself, dude, that shot, how many so this film was
How many
made in
seconds?
2007.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, the the fetus shot, I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah. I didn't think that they would like they would have that feature sauce because they because of the way that they always go for the minimalism and always things that happen off screen. So I didn't really expect that they would like they would show that. But
Yeah.
I think what an effect that it has when
Well,
we
yeah. I
jeez.
mean, the fact that she's so far along in her pregnancy, she's roughly halfway along,
Yep.
um, means that the fetus has distinct human facial features.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
And it's
so
just so small.
yeah, but the
It's
specifically the fact that it has two eyes, a nose, and a mouth,
yep.
because as like our brains are have evolved to be like to recognize patterns.
Yep.
So you see the eyes, anything that even looks, and I mean, this is why we like perceive cartoon characters as being human beings, is because they have lines and dots and things in arranged as though they were facial features. So it's the same principle, I think, when you see a fetus, which
Mhm.
is it's just like a little tiny person. It kind of confronts you. The film confronts you in that moment with that reality.
Mhm.
Um, that what's happened here is like if you like you can get too caught up in it and it can like make your stomach churn.
Mhm.
Um, because this little tiny miniature person looking thing uh, has to be disposed of that way.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
It's
It's
awful. Have
yeah.
to you have
It's
to watch your words when you're talking about this sort of stuff because of all the
mm,
all the high emotions surrounding the whole abortion debate. Although the director of this film has insisted that that's really not what this movie is about.
mhm, mhm. Well,
I don't know that I really believe him. Obviously, he
I
knows better than I do, being the
yeah.
person who made the film.
Yeah,
But
I think it's more of the criticism to the old world, like what we take on the dinner scenes.
right.
So it yeah, well, but it is. I think he just want to tell a story where like in an era that like that not long ago, but it's like a different era from the present day. But it also might very well still uh can be possible in today's time. Like
Well, there was a film recently that was inspired by this one, right? Another
yep.
abortion themed
I
film.
In America, I actually watched that film as well.
I don't remember the name of it.
Never,
Oh,
rarely, sometime, always.
yeah, that's it. I haven't seen it. I'd be
Yeah,
interested to watch it, having seen this film. Because then I would have a point of comparison, like cinematically.
yep. And it happened in it's set in America as well. So it will be I would say the American story of 4 months through in 2 days.
Okay. Huh. I mean, when is it set? Is it also like for four
Uh,
months? Is it set in the past when abortion was illegal in America?
no. It's in the present day, I think. Or it's just like a few years before the present day. And it's about two girls, two teenagers. So even like younger than these two.
Yeah.
And they have to do the abortion, which, like in a big city where, like no one know about them. So
Yeah,
it's like
but that's the thing. It
secret
would be
abortion, but it's
very
not illegal.
yeah, that would be very very different dynamic from this film where abortion is actually illegal.
Yep, true. Hmm.
Um, I mean the I don't know the shame of it maybe could pose the necessary challenge to kind of make the two films similar. Like if
Yeah.
she insisted on having it done secretly, the character
There,
in Never Really Sometimes Always.
yeah. There's one scene in particular in that movie that's really powerful. That inspired the name of that film. Never really, sometimes, always,
Well, I
and
assume it would have to come from somewhere. That's a kind of a
yeah,
mouthful.
yep. And but in general, I think this one have it just put a wall of impact, more impact.
Hmm. Well,
Well,
I this film was very impactful for me. Gotta
it
say. Uh,
I don't think you're alone in this. Like if one can, it have like if you see the selection of like 2007 films that compete in Cannes, it have a lot of great movies, and even then, when this one won the awards, they don't have any complaint whatsoever. So this one really deserve it.
yeah, if you come out against this film, it's like a jury member, uh, then you're just kind of, you're not in for a good time.
And
You
that is true, and it also special in the fact that at Cannes, as in it's screened on the very first day. and
Hmm.
like it leaves an impression so much so that like 10 days later they still remember it and award is for the for the top prize.
Yeah, there's an advantage to going first and an advantage to going last.
That is
Um,
true.
but
Normally,
yeah, the
like the
disadvantage to going first is still, as you're saying, your film
yep,
can be forgotten.
yep. Normally the big gun's gonna be screened like in the middle, so it's normally
Really?
on yep on the Sunday and Monday. So it start on the Wednesday and end on the Saturday on the next week. So like the middle section on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. That's usually where the Top Guns are.
That's so weird to me.
Mm.
The middle is kind of where you get lost.
Well,
Don't you think?
uh,
Like being at the very beginning when you have an opportunity to set the bar, or being at the very end when you're sure to be remembered, even if you suck. Those are the
yeah,
two places where you would be like, oh yeah, I remember that movie.
yeah, but normally like movies, it very rarely that movie that's screening on the first day and the last day that won any awards. It happened, but it very rarely. So
Hmm.
I I'm not here to say that there's a method to like to all the scheduling,
It's rigged.
especially
It's
in
all
Cannes. But
rigged.
yeah, but yeah, it's more likely the case where the big names of films are usually in the middle section of the festivals.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Oh well. All right. Um, are you in for the next one? Police adjective.
Sure. Let's do it.
All right.
I
He
was wondering how the title of the film was going to become relevant over starting out and seeing that it was like a very, very slow moving, like kind of procedural
Yep.
uh, movie.
Hmm.
Not procedural in the sense that like American cop films are procedurals, but it
Yep.
just that it follows a case.
Yep.
That's the event around which many of the film's events kind of revolve. I
Hmm.
was like, where is the somewhat like linguistic title gonna
Uh-huh.
tie in here? And then you get to that scene at the end
Yep.
with Vlad Ivanov,
Yep.
surprise, showing up again.
Are you watching this one the last out of the
Yeah, I
three
watched them
films?
chronologically.
All right, because I think I'm watching this one. I think the second after the death of Peter Lazarescu.
Wow, you
So
you saved 4 months for last.
yep, I know the impact it has to me. So I
Hmm,
want to say the best for last. Okay.
I see. I thought you were supposed to put the best in the middle.
I'm that's why I'm not a jury or even like the programmer at
Yeah.
Cannes.
Yeah, you have too much common sense to put the best films in the middle because that it just doesn't make a whole lot of not a whole lot of logic there.
Yeah, true.
Where did Police Adjective end up showing? Was it also at Cannes?
It also at Cannes is at the Certain Regards.
Like was it
Uh,
at the middle, the beginning, whatever?
I have no idea because the
Okay,
Certain Regard is like another another lich.
right.
Uh, so this guy, I start with the director first. I watched two of his films. His name is Cornelio Pormio. So two of his more recent films, I watched it at Cannes. So the Treasure and the Whistlers. So I kind of know his style. Uh, and but to say that two of his films, the 1208 is of Bucharest in
Hmm.
2006 and Police Adjective are also like what people consider like the very first of the Romanian new wave. So I end up deciding to take on Police Adjective, which is a bit more famous out of the two. Um, for the movie itself, I actually feel that it dragging a bit. It doesn't really reach the level of the death of Peter Lazarescu and former 3 week 2 days. But we have some section that are really good, like the very long comfort the very long at the meeting that we see at the end. I think it's worth the wait. It was the all the thing that happened before.
Mm.
What do you think?
I definitely there were some parts where I was getting a little sleepy
Yep,
watching this movie, but in general, I found it to be pretty involving. Like specifically the parts that I where I was tuning out were
yep,
the moments where he was standing outside the convenience store
yep,
near
yep,
the
yep, yeah,
wall with
yep,
all the graffiti on it,
yep.
and like surveilling, I guess Alex's house. Alex being the
Hmm.
snitch, the squealer was what my
Yep,
subtitle said, the squealer.
yep, yep, yep.
And of course, that's something that the captain, who's very like semantically oriented, uh, he has to correct him whenever he uses like street lingo, like
Yep,
squealer. He has to
yep,
say denounce,
yep.
and the term denounce almost has like a Nazi Germany sort of tone to it, like
Mm,
to rat on somebody, to snitch on them,
mhm,
to to tattle on them would be to denounce them as though you were like formally criticizing their lack of loyalty to the state.
mhm,
I thought it was very telling that the police captain wanted him to use that term specifically,
mhm,
because it does kind of have like an authoritarian, almost fascist feel to it.
mhm, mhm,
Uh, Anyway, yeah, that's the end of the film. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so he's I think it's Alex's house, the snitch
mhm.
that he's doing a stakeout on, right? When he's
Yep,
okay.
yep.
So
And
those scenes where it's just like him, there's literally a scene of him so bored that he's just like kicking his foot against that wall of graffiti, and I was like, me too, man. I feel it. I'm also
I
bored over here.
I completely agree with you on that. If I think the film would be benefit much better if it's got like a good, I think an hour from that, like all the things that relate to, like his daily trolling of that kid, because like in the end it doesn't matter.
Well, actually, I think the fact that it doesn't matter in the end is exactly why those scenes are so long, because
Oh
he is
man.
putting in all this additional work in order to look for a way to stop the sting operation from happening.
Yep,
He wants to
yep,
see if he can find any evidence of like who the actual dealer is so they can make a bust on a higher priority target, or not higher priority, because for the captain of this police unit the priority is just low level arrests. He doesn't
yep,
care about actually finding where the drugs are coming from.
yep,
But that's what Christie, the detective, that's what he wants, is to
yep.
he doesn't want to bust this kid for just some tiny quality of hashish. He
I
he
Yeah,
if there's gonna be an arrest, he wants a good quality arrest.
yeah.
Um,
I do think that they want to bust this guy, the Alice, and two of his friends, just to get into the tail of his brothers, because I think they know that the brother is the one who supplies the drug. It's what that I think that's what I understand it, but I might be wrong on this.
well, towards the end of the film, the suspicion that Christie begins to have is that it's the girl's brother, the one
Right,
he's gotten
right.
arrested for a DUI and is constantly out of the country.
Yep, yep, yep,
He
yep. Oh
thinks
yeah.
that's where the drugs are coming from.
Hmm, hmm,
The vibe that I get from the police captain is that he doesn't even care
hmm.
whether action on these three kids ends up like he just assumes that they will quote unquote denounce whoever their dealer is. But he doesn't
Yep.
know that for sure. And I get
Hmm.
the feeling that he really doesn't care whether it happens or not.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
what matters to him is that the police have power, which is what
Yep.
that whole final scene demonstrates, with him being like, okay, now look up this in the dictionary, look this up and look this up and look this up. And specifically when the last definition that he looks up is police.
Yep.
And you can tell based on his mannerisms and like his involvement in the scene during that final reading. In like some of the definitions, for example, law and moral,
Yep.
he just let he let Christie just read and read and read, and Christie would like look up at him and as if
Yeah.
to confirm should I keep going, and he would just
Yeah.
let him talk. But during the reading of the definition for police, he was like the captain was interjecting. Oh, that's us. This is who we should be. That's right. It's exactly as it's written there, and it comes from the Greek polis, which means, the state, the people
Yep.
who are in charge. Like he's very invested in the idea of police being the you know being in a penultimate position within society.
Yep.
And of course, what Christie is advocating for is the opposite. Basically, is not using the arm of the law just because you can use it. He's advocating for, like restraint and even compassion, just letting not ruining the lives of civilians.
Yep.
Uh, and but the captain has a different philosophy.
Yep. Yep. And I think it's tied up very well as well. Like like in the very beginning, Christie have an argument with one of his college about like the sport they play. I think it's like soccer tennis, a mix between soccer and tennis,
Yeah, they call it foot tennis.
foot tennis. All right, and he's mentioned something that like because you're not good at football, I know that you're not good at foot tennis, and this is the law.
Oh, does he?
And
Huh? I forgot
yeah,
it. I forgot that phrasing. You're
yeah,
right.
he said
I
that,
remember that now.
and the colleague said like, what law is it written somewhere? And he says something along that line that no, it's the common law or something. It's like the common sense. So I think it tied up very well to or it foreshadowing the like what happened afterwards, where we see where we actually see what the foot soccer is, or foot tennis, what it actually is, and like to the confrontation at the end where they talk, like where they look up to the law in the dictionary.
Yeah, I didn't put that together. That's true though. He does say
Yeah,
that it's the law. But I
yeah.
mean, he phrases it. He does it kind of flippantly. He's not super
Mhm.
serious about it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it's
But but
different
but
from the approach that
but
the
it
police captain takes.
well, but it's we can still see that his approach to to whatever, to the law, I think, like he on in that scene he being mean to his colleague as well, and like at the end maybe that's what he get.
Wow. I think you and I have disagreed about the endings of all three of these movies. Two of them being quote unquote happy endings, and now this one. Yeah, I mean, I see the connection that is made between that first conversation, and it is the
Yep,
first conversation in the movie because the movie
that's true.
opens with like 5 minutes of
Yep,
uninterrupted, like a trailing mission from a video game where
yep,
you just you have to take your character and follow another character without being noticed. Um, and the first dialogue that we get is that exchange between Christy and whoever the other guy is. Um,
yep.
he just, in order to justify his own position, and in
Hmm. Hmm.
fact, it's like his
Hmm.
kind of his privilege or his
Yep,
the position of power that he wants to hold as somebody who's in like good athletic shape. He wants to exclude somebody who's not in good shape from
yeah.
participating in the
Well,
game because he thinks it might lower the quality of the game. If you
I
kind of
I
extrapolate that, you could see how the police captain might have a similar view. Like you want to anyone
yeah.
who violates the law in any way needs to be taken care of immediately because they lower the quality of society, so to
it uh,
speak.
it also more like you just said, and it make whole lot sense that to maintain his position, and I think that's what the captain want to uh his main aim as well is to to exercise the power, is to maintain his power,
Right.
his position, sorry. Yep. So
Yeah. But the thing is, once you've achieved a and this is me just talking idealistically, I suppose, but once you've achieved a position of power, of influence, it's up to you what you do with it, or it should be.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
you can use it to better people's lives, or you can use it just to ensure that you continue to have power.
Hmm.
And it's clear that the latter is what the captain here has opted for.
Yeah.
He feels the need to demonstrate his authority like at all times.
Hmm.
Even his secretary who comes in with the dictionary and he asks her what's the definition of conscience,
Yeah.
she immediately starts to give a religious answer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's like, "You may go."
Yeah.
He even has to be condescending to her.
Yeah.
Um,
He said something even more, like more snacky than that. He say like, we need to buy one from from your own pocket because you need one you need a dictionary as well.
right. I actually think that he said petty cash.
Oh yeah, what petty cash?
Yeah, that would be the police department paying for it.
Oh right, petty
But
cash.
the effect is the same. Like, wow, you
Yeah.
are in such desperate need of one that yes, I guess the police department is going to have to pay for one just so you can have it because you're that stupid. Basically,
Oh
is
man, this guy.
yeah,
And he doesn't take no for an answer. Like Christy, he declined several times, and he just like, you have to do it. Now in between, you do it, you do the sting operation, or you're not a police anymore.
yeah, yeah.
Damn.
That's I was wondering what once he issued that ultimatum, I was wondering how the film was going to end. Like I wondered,
Mhm.
will he resign? Will
Yep.
the final scene of the film be like Christy going home to his apartment and he doesn't have a job anymore?
Yep.
Will it be him packing up his things? Will what will it be exactly? And I was kind of curious as to what the purpose of that foot tennis. I mean, I know now, thanks to you
Yep.
pointing out, how it links back to the beginning of the film. But
Yep.
when I first watched it, I was like, why this little scene of. I thought as the foot tennis game was happening, I thought maybe there was going to be a line of dialogue, like it was going to be 3:55,
Yep.
and it was
But
so almost time for him to make his decision about whether he would stay with the police force, and he would be like, let's just keep playing.
yep.
And he would retire like that way by refusing to acknowledge the ultimatum that his captain had set,
Mhm.
but
I
that's not what happened.
I think the ending for me just end perfectly because the foot tennis also in a way that is a game that they created for themselves. So they make their own rules on that game about that games. So I think this is something that also tied to like the law and like the authority that they how to exercise all the rules. So it is still linked to like to the main team in the bigger sense.
Hmm. Hmm. I see. I mean, I think foot tennis might be a real thing. Not to say that it's one of the world's most popular sports or anything like that,
I will have
but
to look that up. Yeah,
I
but
mean that you sometimes see people playing volleyball on the beach with just their feet.
yep, yep.
So that
Oh,
I
with
think,
the feet.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Right.
I've seen that when I've been on vacation to the beach. Uh,
Yep.
so I think that's a, but
Yep.
yeah, it does kind of give the impression of a game that was just made up arbitrarily,
Yep.
kind of like laws are arbitrarily decided.
Yeah, and I do think that the ending where he go through the plan and we don't actually see that happen. It actually it's a really good ending to this. He decided to go through with that because he doesn't want to end his job.
Right.
And yeah, I just think that it is a really clever way to finish the movies.
Yeah, and
Like and yep.
did you notice what the diagram for the sting operation that he was writing? Did you notice what he was using to write it?
No idea. Some paper.
It was chalk on a chalkboard,
Right.
the
Yep.
same surface where his partner Nelu
Yeah.
wrote his definition of conscience.
Oh, jeez. Yep.
So it was probably happening in the captain's office because it was written on a blackboard, the same as in that scene.
Yep. Oh, funny. And we haven't talked about his conversation with his girlfriend about the
I think they're married. He wears a ring.
all right. Oh yeah, yeah. They about to go on the on the honeymoon trip, I think.
They already went because he says where they went on the honeymoon,
All right.
and the other
It's
guy's
not
like,
it's not
"What?
Paris. It's not
Yeah,
it's not
not the city of
uh
love."
it's Prague, Czech.
Yes, that's right. They went
Yep.
to they went to the Czech Republic, or
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. All right. Yeah, and they talk about like the new world.
right.
And
Yes, that
I
ties
I
into the
yeah,
captain's obsession with language.
yeah. I just think that if we are Romanian, we would get a lot more out of that scenes.
Yeah, probably so.
And it just so funny that the captain didn't pick up the one thing that like I would say that he certainly like if he was like the captain that we know he certainly make a hat for Christie about that. So he looked at the report and he said like you misspelled the word. And Kuti said like, yeah, I know.
My
And he
wife
said
pointed
like,
it out, but I
yeah, my
forgot to change it.
yeah, and if he was a captain, he said like, what? So your wife read the report? Is it supposed to be like confidential? But he didn't
Yeah,
go that route.
and I think it makes sense that they wouldn't go that route because the captain is not he's not interested in simply exercising, he's not interested in just being a bad boss. He
Mhm.
specifically wants to like show off his power over
Yeah.
his coworkers and his place in society as a
Mhm.
whole. He because all of the cruelty that he exhibits here is very much rooted in his idea about what the police should be and should do. It's
Mhm.
not just like, oh, you let your wife spell check your reports for you. It's not just belittling someone for the sake of it. It
Mhm.
all circles back to his like obsession with structure and the
Mhm.
police's place within that structure.
And in a sense, I think he's not wrong either. It's just like he and Christie have a very different view in regard to like what the police should exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I I will not extend the same level of charity to this guy that I will to the doctors in Mr. Lazarescu,
Mm.
um, because they, I'm sure, are overworked, and we already went over all that.
Yep.
And so, but this, perhaps this is just my American background, um, but I don't really love the police.
All right. Yep.
And I say this as like a white man, who the police
Mhm.
are not really looking to cause problems for. Uh, Even so, like a lot of the stories that you hear about cops in America are not exactly glowing. And I'm sure that even, people in other parts of the world, the news about like the headlines that American cops make, um, probably, are read and heard in other places too. So
Yep.
I
But
don't really see this as the captain just has a different point of view. I mean, certainly he has a different philosophy than Christie, but I would say Christie is right, the captain is wrong. That's just my
all right.
perspective.
All right. Well, and I would say that the negative feeling that we have for the police, I think it's universal. It happens to every country.
Yeah, that probably is true because the police are the arm of the state.
Yep.
And so if there are laws that people are violating, whether those laws are beneficial for society at large or not, there are going to be some people with grievances. That's for sure. When I reference American cops in particular having negative reputations, there are probably some events that have happened over the last, half decade or so that your
Yep.
mind probably goes to
Yep. Yep.
that have been like
It's a
world
lot.
news. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's a
Oh.
problem. But
Mm.
yeah, you're probably right. Like I shouldn't view things with like just a what kind of lens do you call it? Like when somebody like has Amerigoggles on, I'll just say Amerigoggles.
All right.
When you think of everything in terms of America, yeah, I'm sure that people all over the place are not fond of the cops.
Yep. But yeah, I would say that Police Adjective as a whole isn't reached the level of the two films, the two great films that we just talk about. But it's still very interesting. You know, like I still have a good time. I think the final 10-15 minutes is just absolutely top. It just like I would watch uh the last 15 minutes like again and again and still enjoy it.
Yeah, they are pretty. That definitely is the peak of the film.
Yep.
It's also my least favorite out of the three, but in general, I think that this is probably one like we've done 19 of these themed
Yep.
uh, episodes on Triple Cross Cinema here,
Yep.
and I would say that this has been one of the strongest,
Yep.
in my
Yep.
opinion.
I agree.
Um, and I really think that in a way that I couldn't when we've done past quote unquote new wave installments of this series, I really could identify like a kind of a guiding set of principles or theses that informed the making of all these films.
Mhm.
The camera was handheld, lots of long takes, naturalistic direction and performances, social criticism. Um, yeah, and it ended up being like a winning recipe. I think in all three overall, like in all three of these cases.
Yep. Yes. I agree with you. It is one of these my favorite movement, right? Most recent movement as well. And I watch more of like this film from these directors, and I still enjoy a lot. So it's just not like this one not like the one time. I just really like the styles.
You got any that you want to shout out before we sign off here?
All right.
Any
So
other films from this time period in this country?
all right, I just say to check out more stuff from Christy Pugu, the guy who direct the Death of Peter Lazarescu, and more stuff from the guy who directed for 3 weeks and 2 days, Christian Mugu. Uh, they are just like really expert directors who can tell a story that really suck you in and and don't leave you away. So for me this is also a winning uh film movement that we see in a while.
Yeah, very enjoyable. I don't know what we're gonna do for our 20th episode, but it's not gonna be for a while, several months as a matter of fact, because Mario is off to Cannes beginning next week for the what is it the 70th?
It's
Uh,
I don't think so. No, it's not it's the 80 something,
oh
83 I
wow,
think.
yeah,
I
whatever
think
edition
83.
of the Cannes Film Festival this is, Mario will be in attendance,
Yeah.
and I will be sitting on my ass at home, hopefully watching movies, with a particular goal in mind, a project that we're thinking about doing, maybe a little bit of a top 10 list, something like that,
Mhm.
in a few months' time. So that might be actually the next episode that we do on this channel. We'll see.
Yep. Yep. It's the
Yeah.
76 this year.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Very very long history. Hopefully this is one of the better years. I would,
Yeah, hope.
since you're shelling out all this money and spending all this time to go, as you have in years past.
Yeah.
Hope it's a good one.
Hope it is. All right, so we're gonna talk to you again back in this channel in the next few months, but it's a bit of wait, but I'm pretty sure that we'll pick some good things for you to listen.
Yeah, I enjoyed these films a lot.
Right. All right.